After the fall of Brace, the tyrant king, Nuada's reign was re-established. After the return of the righteous and kind king, peace resurfaced in the Irish lands. Nuada brought prosperity, and happiness once again spread among the Tuatha De Danann. But Breis returned as a messenger from Balor, the Fomorians' powerful leader. The mouth of the deformed and deposed king uttered only spiteful and vengeful words. He brought with him the declaration of war, and so the peace between the Fomorians and the Tuatha De Danann came to an end. But the Fomorians knew that the Tuatha De Danann were worthy enemies. A brute force attack would not be enough to defeat them. Balor ordered the Fomorians to mobilize for war, but they would only leave when the entire army was armed and trained. Nuada knew that Balor was no fool, and that the war would be delayed. The Tuatha De Danann would also have time to organize for battle. Nuada led the men as king, but he needed a military chief to command the army. The mighty Dagda was the obvious choice, but there was a problem. The burly warrior and other noble fighters had been humiliated by Brace by being subjected to serfdom. This dishonor made them unworthy and ineligible for the position of army chief. But fate seemed intent on favoring the Tuatha De Danann. Gamia, a watchman at the Forest of the Sons of Danu, spotted a young warrior approaching. He was wearing clothes that identified him as a Tuatha De Danann, but the sentry did not know him. Gamia said that Nuada only allowed useful people to enter the court, and asked what talent distinguished the warrior. He said he was an excellent blacksmith and carpenter, but the watchman retorted, saying that Lukta was already a great carpenter, and there was no better blacksmith than Colum. The warrior said he was a great musician, expert on the harp, with the ability to sing finery like few others, as well as being expert in the magical arts. But Gamia retaliated again. Nuada's court had the best artists and druids. Adding another would only be yet another mouth to feed. The young man said that Nuada's court was packed with experts and men of enormous gallantry, but he doubted that there were any who had as many as he did. The watchman was intrigued and allowed him to have an audience with Nuada. Nuada was surprised to learn that there was a man in his court whose boldness led him to claim that he had countless such talents, and he wanted to know who such a person was. The warrior said his name was Lug, son of Cian of the Tuatha De Danann and Ethniu, daughter of Balor of the Dreadful Eye. His parents had married to help seal the peace between the two peoples. At that moment, several spears were aimed at him. Danu's sons feared that he was a Fomorian spy, but Lug tried to calm them down by telling them his story. Lug was Balor's grandson, and when he was born, a druid prophesied that the young man would be responsible for Balor's death, putting an end to that terrorizing reign. Upon learning of the prophecy, Balor ordered the death of his grandchildren who were born that year. But Lug's mother managed to hide the child and handed him over to be raised by a blacksmith to protect him from her fearsome father. Nuada recognized that fate might have sent the solution to his problems at his door. He therefore ordered the young man to show his fighting skills. Nuada and Lug dueled, and the king realized that Lug was one of the most proficient warriors he had ever fought. As a result, Nuada decided to appoint Lug as the new war chief of the Tuatha De Danann. After some time had passed, the Fomorians established the camp that would serve as the base for the great battles to come. To learn more about his enemies, Dagda went to the camp as an emissary under the pretext of preventing war. Dagda was met by Balor, who restrained himself from killing the visitor with his terrible eye. After all, Breis had been punished for not fulfilling the duty of hospitality, and he did not wish to make the same mistake. But Balor had a plan: to offer the guest an excellent meal. Should he not eat it all, Dagda would offend his host, and for this, he could be punished by death. A huge dish was filled with a thick porridge, made from all kinds of food. It was an absurd quantity that no one could ever devour. At least so thought the Fomorians, but they underestimated that gluttonous warrior with a large waist. After loosening his belt, Dagda began his meal. As he ate, he counted every warrior and every weapon in the camp. The Fomorians watched Dagda in disbelief. He proceeded to consume all the food in the dish, and even ordered a drink to assist his digestion. Dagda sipped a huge barrel of beer in one gulp. That man's stomach seemed endless. The gods staggered visibly drunk and fell to the ground. The Fomorians debated whether to kill Dagda in his sleep, but they were still afraid of the great hero, even though he was passed out. To Dagda's surprise, a beautiful Fomorian named Ellen helped him up and told him she was in love with him. Dagda, even though he was a god, couldn't understand how a woman could fall in love with him after that gastronomical ordeal. But the sagacious god knew that it was pointless trying to understand the love drives of women. With her powers, Ellen helped Dagda escape from the Fomorian camp. Dagda felt extremely pleased as he reported to Nuada all that he had seen. Not because the Fomorians were gathering a powerful army, but because he had had the best meal of his life, while also getting a beautiful new lover.